2019 is the year I pledged to play through the Castlevania franchise and record my journey through these vlogs, culminating in one big video review at the end. Welcome back everyone to another Castlevania Diaries. We finally made it to the 20th entry, and now we're entering the DS era of Metroidvania, Castlevania games. This I've been waiting for a year. I thought it was longer. It feels like 10 years, but I've been waiting a year because everybody's been saying the DS trilogy are the best Metroidvania Castlevanias we have to offer. Now, last time on the Castlevania Diary, if we don't count the mobile game or the Bloodstained games, we had finished Aria of Sorrow, and I had said Aria of Sorrow, like if you look at the three pillars of Castlevania with classic Castlevania, Metroidvania Castlevania, 3D Castlevania, Metroidvania, Aria of Sorrow was at the top. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised when Dawn of Sorrow, I'm looking at my notes because the titles in this franchise, like every one of them has 3 words. It just throws me off. Dawn of Sorrow, does it get top place? Does it dethrone Aria of Sorrow? The simple answer is yes, it does. There are so many things I complained about in Aria of Sorrow that were fixed in Dawn of Sorrow. We're going to go through that. I got my notes right here. And there's still room for improvement. But as the first entry that I've played into the DS line, it's looking really good. Like, I can see why people love this. Let's get started with just the story. This is, I believe, the first time, I'm just thinking, okay, no, it's not the first, it's the second time that we have a Castlevania game that picks up where another one left off. The first one being Rondo of Blood, going into Symphony of the Night, if I remember the order correctly. This one here picks up pretty much after Aria of Sorrow. It continues the story of the white-haired guy that I'd rather call by his actual name, but spoilers, can we talk about that? I think we need to. It's been over 15 years that this game has come out. We're playing as Dracula. I know his name is like something, but I'm going to call him Dracula. I like that we are still in this universe because the modern era, post-2000, is a very interesting one where we've kind of made way with the medieval stuff, even though it's still all there. I like the cast of characters. I love Arikado, and we're seeing him too in the Castlevania Grimoire of Souls. So I feel like this is the modern era that Konami wants to stay in despite not doing any new games. And it's an era I would love to see. And let's all be like, this is the era where we don't know what's happening anymore. I think there's so much that they could do with this cast of characters and just keep building on it. I'd be very happy to stay here. Now in this one, you've got a little bit of a different formula. So of course Dracula's involved. Nobody's getting stolen. You've got a cast of new villains, which I'm seeing is kind of becoming a reoccurring theme. That, of course, want to resurrect Dracula. If it's not Dracula trying to or Death trying to resurrect Dracula, it's someone else trying to resurrect Dracula. And this cast of villain, garbage. I don't like them, and I think that's good. That means that Dracula and Death have been painted in such an awesome villain way that whenever another villain enters the scene, you're just like, you don't quite live up to the Lord of Darkness, and that's good. It's kind of like when you're playing a Zelda game, you know the villain's always going to be Ganon, but Ganon, he's just so evil that when there's another villain introduced, you're just like, okay, you're the puppet, you're the lackey, get out of the way, bring on my good villain, Ganon, or in this case, Dracula. So overall, happy with the story and all that, and when you compare to Aria of Sorrow, you're just getting more of that goodness. Now, the next thing I love, this is the technical aspect of the DS, is the fact that you do have 2 screens, and in a Metroidvania, that's fantastic because that means you can have the map on one screen and the gameplay on the other, and that's the best way to play a Metroidvania. So I had to list that. I do love that. Because it's the DS, of course, it comes with a gimmick. This one was pretty tame, I felt, compared to other games that launched in the DS launch window. Pretty much when you beat a boss, you have to seal it away by like pulling out your stylus and doing like a like symbol on your touchpad. It's okay. Like, I have to say, as annoying as it is to fight a boss and then you have to be queued to enter something, like you need to like manually put something in, as stressful as that is, it feels pretty rewarding when you have a boss that you've weakened and then you get to like send them to the Shadow Realm. I literally felt like Yu-Gi-Oh! Just like dropping a card and blasting them away into the Shadow Realm just by drawing a little pentagon. And that's the power of the DS. So as much as I want to hate on it, I have to say I kind of liked it. Next, we have so I don't even know like which order to go into my feedback. The weaponry in this one, so if anyone watched my playthrough, you'll see I always used an axe, which is crazy because in Aria of Sorrow and all the games before, I'm always using like a whip or a short sword. I usually use something that has a very quick animation, deals the damage, and I can get to the next round. So I was surprised that in this game, I switched over to an axe, which is a much slower weapon, but I found a way to use it that like if you jump and swing, you can execute more attacks faster than if you just swing, wait. And the damage difference between an axe type weapon and anything else is it's such a large gap. It almost makes no sense. So this is the first game I played entirely through. Oh, and with the axe, you also get to hit above you, like the hitbox above you and in front of you. It's a no-brainer. It helps you get through everything so much easier. So I did end up using the axe, surprisingly. And I would say that's unbalanced, but then I look at the bosses and I died so many times, and it's balanced in other ways. I don't know if we want to get into the bosses yet. Let's get through the basic stuff first. The artwork, the music, fantastic. I mean, the artwork is a continuation of Aria of Sorrow. It has like that anime-ish look with the 32-bit look. Love it. The music, still on point. When you're walking around anywhere, you're humming the music because it's good. None of that dissonance business. There's a new feature in this one that they added, which I like it. And it's the fact that you have two variations of gear that you can equip. And when you have so much stuff in a game like Castlevania where you have maybe a different setup for a magic user, or a different setup for a melee, or a different setup for a range, being able to swap that setup with just the flick of a button, it's fantastic. I had one where I had like a whip sword and then the axe setup, so I could swap between a quick or a slower and more powerful attack. Now, when you also consider that this game drops souls from monsters, and there's a lot of different souls you can use, it lets you have basically a setup of souls for one scenario and another setup of souls, so that way you can also switch between that. That was a fantastic function, and I don't think it returns in other games. I could be wrong, but I would love, like, that's something that should stay, just because these games are so big, so complex. Being able to swap, fantastic. I also complained last time that the store was not easily accessible in Aria of Sorrow because the shopkeeper was at the beginning of the castle and there was no warp point there. I could be wrong, but I did not find one. In Dawn of Sorrow, I love that they have a warp point and a save point right next to your like little town. Fixes the issue I had with Aria of Sorrow, which is another reason Dawn of Sorrow takes the lead here. Of course, the soul collecting, I'm not that big into it. They brought it back here. I guess it's a mechanic a lot of the fans like. I'm not a big fan of it, and I have to say I did take a step further into the waters of playing around with these mechanics. I'm more of a traditional player where I like to just have my weapon and I just want to wail on the enemies. This one, I'm learning my mistakes. Like, I always struggle through these games, and outside of the skill thing, I'm either under leveled or I just don't use my secondary. I don't experiment enough with my secondary abilities, and I started doing that a lot more here. I had a friend jump in on stream and was like, "Why aren't you using your familiar?" And I was like, "Oh, well, it's not worth it, but if you level it up, apparently it is." So that's on me for not taking advantage of a system that was clearly designed to be experimented with and to be used to your advantage, and clearly that's why I struggle always towards the end of the game, because you do need to use that. So I don't like it. They brought it back. I did experiment with it more. I get it. Like, I love playing more with a guide where I'm like, oh, I use this to do that. Okay, I'll do it. Or I'll go get this soul to get me through this boss fight. I can do that. But when it comes to me spending hours trying to figure it out, I don't like that. And I don't think I will ever like that. And I know they even did that in the Bloodstained games. I don't like it. In a lot of the cases, in fact, I had to use, this is just going back to me on being underleveled. Like, there's one boss fight, it's a locust boss. I still have yet to figure out its pattern. I literally just stocked up on potions, got the biggest damage dealing like setup I could. I just wailed on this guy until I hoped he'd die before I die. And it worked. That's the only way I got through. But to this day, I don't know how to beat this guy. Like, he summons like a bunch of locusts, and yeah, he draws it so you know which way it's going to come in, but it fills the screen, so I could never figure out how to do it. That's bad boss design, but maybe I'm just an idiot. but I tried many times. I had an audience helping me, and I couldn't figure it out. So there's still, I feel, some difficulty spikes that is inherent with this franchise, and it is not for me as a player. As a player, I do not like that. But everything else is good. Even the gimmick in Castlevania where they do bad endings is here again, but it's a lot less cryptic. So there's this one area where you fight one of the villains in the game, and when you win, you lose because you weren't supposed to kill him. You were supposed to kill the demon that took control of him, and to do that, you have to go into a mirror. That I didn't figure it out on my own, but it was pretty obvious that there was something in the mirror, and eventually you get an ability to go in the mirror. That's fair. Then there's another part where you fight the boss of the game, and if you beat it without a certain thing equipped, it's a bad ending. But then you have like your ally saying, oh, I really thought he was going to equip this item to take on that boss. Why didn't he do that? So the game tells you pretty much like, hey, here's the bad ending. Maybe if you do this, you're going to get a good ending. Not cryptic at all. And even better, when you get that bad ending, you have Julius Belmont, who's all like, all right, I got to go like kick this little boy's butt. Let's go. And that actually makes sense when you unlock the Game Plus, I guess, where you can play as Julius. And at this point, it's a trope of the franchise. You can always replay the game through Belmonts, where you have the old classical style thing. And I love that setup. I love playing as Julius Belmont. And it's actually set up in a way that's like, hey, this isn't just kind of a little tidbit for you. It's actually played into the story of like, oh, this alternative story arc. If you fail as the main character, you have to go in as Julius Belmont and save the day. So it gives you a little bit more purpose to play as Julius. And even that quest is that is the quest that is designed for the nostalgia and for the players. You can unlock all sorts of characters from the past, like Alucard and all that. It's a fun playthrough. Like at this point, you know how to get everywhere, you know how to go everywhere. It's just a matter of getting through the castle, beating up the monsters. Very, very traditional Castlevania without that disgusting difficulty curve, and I love it. In fact, as I'm talking about it, I want to go back and play it because I did not finish the Julius Belmont questline because I didn't really need to make this diary. I always hit this whip thing. And that's pretty much it. So all those reasons are plenty of reasons to put Dawn of Sorrow now on the pedestal, followed by Aria of Sorrow, followed by, we're talking Metroidvanias, followed by, oh my goodness, what's it called? Symphony of the Night. And then I'm not going to rank the other ones. Bottom one's probably Harmony of Dissonance though. So that is it. We're getting close to the end. I've got 2 more DS games. I've got a Curse of the Moon, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2 sequel to review, and then we're going into the Lord of Darkness and a little bit of fringe Castlevania games, and we're going to be at the end of this franchise playthrough. So thanks for joining me, everyone. I'll see you on the next Castlevania Diary, and until then, keep it classy.